well, we're reaching the same point.
Well,
We're going to have another. It's just
George, 40 years ago, sitting in prison, sitting in a Texas prison, doing time for marijuana back then, when it was a life sentence in Texas. I wrote a short story about the destruction of Atlantis, and I put forth the idea that these people were so advanced that they could fly to the moon and have lunch and fly back, and that they continued their existence and went on and ruled behind the scenes and ran things behind the scenes with this advanced technology for years. I wrote that as science fiction 40 years ago. Today it doesn't sound much like science fiction, especially when you're talking about the end of the world. You have to ask about why would they be building these deep underground military bases?
It's the same scenario, because that's what's happening here. The planet itself, as we're spinning, our planet is going. You and I are, as we're talking, you're doing 1,000 miles an hour roughly, as you know. But our planet going around the sun is going at another speed. So all of a sudden, your speed, that's just a relative idea, is increasing. But our universe, the one, our local one, our Earth and our sun, this planetary section that we have, is spinning through the universe in a cycle of this circle around the central sun of the Pleiades, called Alcyon. It's a 26,000-year cycle, and we're reaching into points right now astrologically where we're going to go through the same kind of thing that happened to Atlantis and Lemuria, along with the people that are in control. When they have the few people left, they'll be living in the, like you said, in these underground things while we go through this 3 years of incredible changes on the surface of the planet. So now that's on the surface. So when we come back to building a dome, we're going to have to build some for the plants and everything else we have, but they can't survive with the planetary changes that are going to happen on the weather. We've got all kinds of things. We may become another Mars, and that's exactly what happened to Mars. It was inhabited. A lot of them, when it was coming apart, took to shuttle down the planet Earth. So it's an interesting thing. I just got some email from Russia showing incredible machinery, small gears and everything that are 2 million years old.
That's it follows in line. I don't think I think we've been around for a lot longer. I mean, let's see. We walked with dinosaurs. That's written in stone, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I dug over in western Colorado. I dug up a lot of stuff on the ancients there. The old bones and everything. They're humans then at the same time. But remember, this planet was used kind of like you said, as a garden at one time, as a Garden of Eden. And extraterrestrials come down, and we're basically all the different colors come from different star systems. The hope was we'd intermix and interbreed and breed out the war tendencies, but that hasn't happened. Every kid today, when he gets born, is given a computer game, and it's a war game play. Well, look at it. These kids are all being pre-programmed to set up to begin a war against something. They sit in a computer room in Kansas City and launch the missiles over the Middle East.
I predicted that was going to happen, George. Back when I first got married, something like 30 years ago, and I was going down to the mall playing Missile Command on the computers, and I said, "This is what warfare is going to become."
Well, yeah, but people remember expendable containers. So now the question is, you and I are both over 35. Well, 44 is the cutoff age, according to my sources. Everybody over age 44, unless you have a talent that they can use, will be eliminated. And the idea is, since we're aware of this, how do we get ourselves prepared? It's like, I put up stuff on my website, nohoax.com, HOAX.com. As stuff comes in for people to get an idea. And I've been looking for solutions for a long time. And there are solutions, but it's only for the few. It's like yourself. We're going to set up a little village. The village is okay, except for, here's the problem. all of the, and there's several of them across the United States, you're probably aware of it.
Yes, I am.
What you've done. Yeah, what has happened now, that is a focus point for the guys that come in, that they know that these people are basically rebels against the system. So some of my friends over in Montana are not setting up little villages and stuff. They're going within the villages, so there'll be, you know, little spots all over so people can see how they are, but not separated. This is, you know, they can be unconventional, just like you.
I have said that the whole concept for Liberty Village is workable in your town, in your block, if you just got off your ass and walked out and talked to your neighbors, knocked on the door and said, look, we're doing a little project in this block. We want 10 families in this block to dig up their backyard and plant a garden and put a greenhouse up and put this up and do this and do these.
Well, it's not working quite that way. What's happening in the other places, they're having little meetings in the towns and in the churches and everything for people that are, quote, you know, believing in Armageddon, if you were to look at it. And at least they're being aware of things, and they're trying to adapt that. The problem is when they come in the city, you got an inspector that says, wait a minute, I can't put that in, or I can't do that. Or for instance, in Las Vegas, you used to have a lot of green lawns. Well, they pay you $1 a foot to take up your lawn because they don't have the water. And what's happening is you're going up, and other places, they'll say, well, you can't put in this type of crop into this town because it may grow and it goes over to our field, and you got Monsanto down the street with the GMO stuff suing them. And people are scared to death going to court because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, the main complaint, or the main thing that's happened with Liberty Village is when I talk about it, they go, oh, well, the neighborhood association won't allow that. It's, they won't do this, they won't do that. And hold on just a second here. Let me, I'm trying to get my recording started on my other half here, and it ain't working properly, so hold on just a second. Okay, now I think it's working here. And now it's broadcasting. All right. We're doing okay. And,
well, what I have found is that what's the most valuable mineral on the planet? Water.
Yes.
You're going to have to go to a small town away from places and be able to drill your own well if you can for your own property. A lot of places are now not even allowing that to happen. But that's where you have to be. You have to have some kind of protection from the elements out there, and that, again, the monolithic domes are the perfect thing. And then find a way to survive when everybody's out of work. And we have a 23% unemployment right now across the United States. 23%. People can't even find it. In other words, that includes the ones that are on the welfare rolls, and the ones that are trying to find jobs, and there's no jobs out there. So they're moving in with their families, leaving their houses, as you know. Look at the price of houses and how they dropped in Vegas, for instance. I mean, there's how I talked to a lady the other day with a 4-bedroom house, $31,000. It's just unbelievable that they can do that, but there's no jobs there either. The casinos run their own little world over there. That's for the people who think they're going to get rich, and all they're doing is supporting the casinos. It's a different game, and unless they have a business that is providing products to the government, the American people are just being sucked dry right at this minute. And there's only going to be two classes: the one that has already accumulated the wealth, and the other ones that are hoping to find something to be on the dole. And so that, again, that's another reason for them to get a war started. And that's what I'm predicting right now. Any moment now. I had sources tell me there was going to be one started by the end of March. Well, they haven't got it gone yet, so we just have to take every day as we can, Clay, and try to inform as many people as we can of what's coming down. And rest assured, they have thought about everything. I mean, they've got computers that it's down to the point where, just like you said, they can put little deals on the side of your house and listen to it. And if you say the wrong word, that'll put up a red flag on your house.
That's right. That's right. You know, and they're trying. The Secret Service is setting up, you know, zones where you can't even exercise your First Amendment right. We were just listening to somebody about smart meters too, and this is, I mean, this is they when I lived out in the middle of nowhere, they came out and wanted to put they were going to tell me they were going to put a meter on my well. I said, what are you trying to do? Get shot? You come into that gate, you know, you're here to steal something, you're here to take something from me, and you won't walk out.
What are you trying to tell me? There's no such thing as private property anymore?
That's what they want. That's what they're trying. Let's see. I think that's. Let's see. Where is that? Let's see. I heard that somewhere, George. Oh yeah, here it is. I got this little booklet here that says number one plank on the Communist Manifesto is abolition of private property.
Well, that's what it amounts to, isn't it? Give you the illusion that you own it, but everybody, remember, it's all subject to taxes, and the taxes come first.
That's right, and for you folks out there, I mean, we're talking about something that's been around for 100 years. This is what they've done: abolition of private property, heavy progressive income tax, abolition of all rights of inheritance, confiscation of property of immigrants and rebels. I guess we would constitute a rebel force if we don't like a communist government. Then we're anti-government here in this country, aren't we? We've also got central bank. That's number 5. Government control of communications and transportation. Can you say, you know? FEC, government ownership of factories and agriculture, government control of labor, corporate farms and regional planted, and of course government control of education, which they've had for 100 years to dumb us down.
Well, that's exactly like Aaron Russo's video from Freedom to Fascism. He's got them to admit it on that video. And you know, and people can download the video on the internet, as you know. We make it available, you know, for free if they buy one of our books on our website. We'll get a copy of it to them. All to do is, and they can look at it themselves on a DVD. It's a real change out here because, Clay, you and I both know everything that's coming down, and then what we're trying to do, and what you're trying to do is the same thing with the radio station. Is trying to get information out to the people to awaken them to what's coming down, and they don't know what to go with. They don't know what to do about any of it, Clay, and neither do we at this minute, because they've come to the point where it's fait accompli. The only thing it is that you and I are unable to tell some people some of the information that's coming down, so they can get as much preparation, and you're hoping to get a new listener that will sit down and maybe make a difference. But we don't have anybody in Washington. I mean, I laugh about that. If you've been to the White House, if you get across the street from the White House, you look at it. The building next to it on the left is the West Wing. That's where most of the business is taken care of. But the real control is the building across the street, directly west of that. It's a huge one-block building. You know what it is?
Tell me.
The Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve, yes, sir.
Then the next block is the Internal Revenue Service, which is the collection agency for the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
And now they've got it now where anything is monitored, any transfer, any kind of money has to be reported back to the IRS on their big computers in the sky.
If you tried to send me a donation by Western Union, you got to call Western Union to let them know you know who Clay Douglas is.
Well, that's only right. Now, you didn't read the fine print, Clay. So.
Right. And the poor lady that tried to send me money, she called the Western Union, and she called me back laughing. She said, "Well, Clay, if it's any consolation to you, you're not just paranoid."
Well, it's the transfer of money is getting harder and harder. The only way you can do some is take some cash and get some to the post office, but only in small amounts, and get one of their money orders. That's about it, man. And some of the grocery stores will still do that. But they don't want any of that. That's all coming apart. Remember, they were going to come out with their new colored money. Well, they even showed it to you. But they found out that 94% of the money right now is digits. And so, of course, that's part of the deal. I flew with the guy, the president of the company that's making the New World Cash Card. It's a debit card. If you get laid off, they give you a debit card. But the new ones all have the chip in them. I talked to my CIA about the chip thing, and he says, and they're not going to bother chipping people because there's going to be so many dead people in the streets. That's what they're expecting, that you'll be able to just go take a chip out of them. So what they're doing is the new ID card, which you have to have, by the way, if you go over to Europe now with a MasterCard or Visa, you have to get one with a chip in it to utilize it. What is happening is they're getting identification. Will have your picture and all the stuff on it. Under the rules right now under FEMA, you probably read that. In case they call a national emergency, you have to go to the post office and register and get your new ID card, and that's what you're talking about. Everybody in the United States. Well, India has already done that publicly this last month. Now they're making everybody in India have the new card with the chip in it. And there's 1 billion people plus in India. Now that's coming over here because the whole world is used to carrying this little piece of plastic. So now you're going to have the plastic and it'll have it just slip, and they'll know exactly where you are, where you're doing. They have their computers will tell you when you bought the piece of coffee or whatever you've done for the day, your pie down there with the guys and your donuts. Everything's monitored, your direction. You buy your gasoline, it's all on the little chip. They know exactly what you've done. Forget about your house.
Yeah, it's already happening. That's exactly the way I do my banking. I simply, go to the internet and see what I spent today.
That's exactly right. And all that is all being recorded, as you know, by, Google and stuff, which is all being relayed. And I had people yesterday, I've been buying a book from Barnes & Noble. They are setting up a business with Barnes & Noble. And what they set up, they won't even do it until they make sure the IRS identifies me.
The Aaron Russo predicted this would happen in his conversation with Nicholas Rockefeller.
Yeah, I know.
And then he suddenly died.
Well, he was sick anyway. He went over to Europe. Aaron and I were friends. I spent the afternoon with him when he was running for governor of Nevada.
I put him on the cover. I put him on the cover of the Free American magazine. So much for the anti-Semitic bullshit. Aaron was a good man.
Yes, he was. He was. No, he was trying to do as best he could. And what happened again? He was sick. But a lot of people come down at this point. Maybe it's a better time to be sick. I don't know. It's not good to look at all these different things that are happening. But again, what do you do? I'm having meetings with people in 2 weeks where we're figuring out which place in the world, and you can't move money outside of the United States hardly anymore. It's real tough because of the wire transfers. They check in everything that's going on. You can't do it personally. There are ways to get around it, but I won't say on how to do that over the air right now, because then it'll make me mad. But people, they can contact me at my office or email me. Just go to my site, nohoax.com, and then I'll be able to talk to them and tell them what you can do. But
are we making? I mean, it seems to me that we're having an effect, George. And I got to admit, I kind of got my hopes up with the Tea Parties and with the Occupy movements. I said, wow, man, people are actually getting off their chairs, they're turning their TVs off, they're getting in the streets. And I thought, but then I see Sarah Palin advocating war in the Tea Party darling, and they advocate war with Iran.
Well, they don't understand the full picture because they don't have time enough. They get an education up to a certain point. One of the things that I found out when I was running around with the guys that are planning on taking over the world is everybody goes to school for a very specific avocation. In other words, you want to become a lawyer, okay, you studied law. Or you want to be a physicist, so you studied physics. You know, always that's all you know. But putting the pieces together for the entire picture, there's very few people that think outside the box, Clay. It's kind of like you. You think outside the box. When you start putting the pieces on all of them, you have to know a little bit about everything. Well, even in the politicians, in politics, jokingly, I told you it's two words. Poly means many, and ticks are bloodsuckers. I also advise everybody to make sure you look at the sweaters that our congressmen are wearing to see who their corporate sponsor is, because we have the best government money can buy. And the other thing, remember what Henry Kissinger says, the absolute aphrodisiac is power. You know, when they asked me to be the finance chairman for the next president of the United States, I was sitting there, you know, why me? And they said, we owe you a favor. But then they stood down there looking at it. They don't care. As Volcker told me, he said, we don't care who's in office. We control them both. It's all the power. And people have that power position, and their ego is setting up there, I can do all of these things. Well, they can only do things if you play part of the game. So you start looking at the game, and the game that they're using is the dollar, which they control again. So I don't care. Remember, once a year they have the Billionaires Club that meets over in Wyoming. So the billionaires have accumulated $1 billion of this so-called monopoly money, and that's all it is. They forget somebody else owns that game.
Do you, I'm not particularly fond of Obama. I think he's a perfect New World Order leader, you know, half black, half white, half Muslim, half Jew. But I wasn't very fond of Bush or Clinton either. Both of them were in partners. Now, we've got a new election coming up, and Ron Paul is being shuffled by the media. Shuffled, trying to be head out of sight. They're manipulating the votes, so I don't think Ron Paul is going to be elected. And
no, he's not going to be there. You know, there's no way. The election's all set up. Romney's going to be put in. If Ron Paul got in by any strange things, they'd take him out right away anyway. It's kind of like when Kennedy got into office. I mean, he was in there part of the group, but then he woke up to how much power he had, and he was going to start to change things. So the game is changing. You've got different rulers up here to take the whole thing around. It's not a good picture right at this minute, period, and there's nobody in the Congress that's going to change anything. We don't have any leaders up here. Gingrich and the rest of them that know some of the stuff on it, why didn't they have it changed a long time ago? And it's a game they're playing in front of the American people to keep them entertained. All you can do is look at the television right now on the election thing. They're not telling you about what's happening on the rest of the world. Again, the focus of people. Let's get them entertained. Who's going to be the new Broncos star? Manning's now going to be the Denver Broncos, right? That's all they want people to look at. Remember, get them interested in sports and entertainment. The entertainment world is collapsing, though. My friends in Hollywood and stuff, everything's being done out of the country because they can't keep up with the unions here and, the type of crowd that's running this whole game.
Why isn't there a few people out there that's got the money? I mean, my biggest problem is these bastards have kept me broke. They've interfered with my radio shows. They've interfered with my deals. I had one of my magazines sold for $500,000 7 years ago. And then all of a sudden I walk into the office and it's all gone. Oh, we can't do it, Clay. Our stock's dropping like a rock. They say,
the securities game is a different thing. Remember that 60-some% of all stocks that are traded on the stock market or that are issued are all owned by the pension funds. David Rockefeller himself owns 4.5% of 90% of the world's corporations, which is basically voting control. Now, he does it in his own name. Now, remember, he's 90-some years old, but between his trust, his corporations, they all hold enough positions in most of the thing. They control the game, and then they set up the IRAs and the retirement accounts for people to invest in money, and the stockbrokers. Remember, I was a principal, I was an underwriter myself, so I found out the game was that people issue a piece of paper and it's a gamble, because there's nothing behind it. The CEOs that own the companies now know what the hell's happened, so they pay themselves what? $100 million a year salaries. There's no such thing in dividends. Just a few companies still do that. Some of the energy companies do it. They'll give them part of it. But the trouble is that they can manipulate everything. They don't have to pay anything back to the stockholders, and they're not doing it. Most of the stocks today don't have dividends, so why do they buy them? By buying a new Google game or a new like Facebook, or we're going to get stock in that and we're going to make all kinds of money. Who's buying that stuff? That'd be the pension funds that put it in there to hide the things out, and that's all going to crash. Everybody's pension fund in the United States is basically broke.
Well, again, I get back. What happens if the whole economic system crashes? Who's going to survive? Somebody that's got a garden in the backyard, and that's about it, isn't it?
Exactly. That's it, exactly. And for the storage of wealth right now, I tell people that, pick up old junk silver, frankly. The old dimes and quarters. Gold is getting up to the point where most people can't afford it, and if you had to go trade it, it's only between the elite anyway. And the countries themselves know that. They're acquiring all the gold. I mean, it's $1,800 for an ounce of gold right now. You're looking at, and that's to buy it. If you're sitting here looking at, silver, you can still buy silver coins for, but it's like it's $35 an ounce right now to get it. It'll be $50 before the end of the year. So that's at least a place to put it, but that's only an exchange. All this stuff is an exchange of what we're trading for. Now the next thing is petroleum products, which produce the plastics and all the other stuff we have. We have a game now where everything is manipulated and controlled, and you and I just have to. The best thing I can tell people is stay back, get as much information. That's the first rule of the universe, is to gain all knowledge. Get as much knowledge about everything, and stay in the observer mode. Don't get out there and try to be a front man like you, because they'll find a way to take you out. And they don't even care about you talking, because most people aren't going to listen.
Yeah, we were talking about this on the chat room. They've got me blocked in libraries. If you work at Intel or Intuit or probably the government, you can't hear the Free American Hour. You can't get to the Free American Show. Well,
but that's part of the game too, Clay. They keep much information away for the few that has it. Most people are not even interested in. You have a listening audience that's willing to listen to what you have to say, or trying to let them think and say, and they're looking for the same thing as an actual solution. And the only solution I know is to sit back, don't get involved, look at the game of politics for what it is, just a big game. Stay away. We don't have anybody that's going to come forth, and nobody's going to come back and save us. That's the other bad game. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to be saved. Saved from what and where? This is a do-it-yourself game. Even in the Bible, it says what Christ said: "What I do, you can do, and more." He also said, "What you sow, you shall reap." So what you're looking at is we have to take on this responsibility of taking care of ourselves and our family with as much knowledge as we know, knowing they're going to attack everything the way we have things and the way we think.
That's you're absolutely right. I think that's the last word. The website is nohoax.com, and George Green, I want to thank you. I appreciate you coming up in the last minute. And if you've got anybody out there with money that wants to work to put these villages together, all we got to do is one, and they'll go around the rest of the world. Thank you for being with me. God bless.